Okay, we are 6:01 officially, so I think we can officially kick off the meeting. I want to welcome everybody this evening to the Our West Bayfront Spring Gathering 2022. Thanks so much for joining us this evening for this virtual telephone meeting. It's not ideal, but we hope to be holding these again in person, maybe by the fall. Fingers crossed. I'm Anna Franz. I'm the Executive Director of Our West Bayfront. And just a little bit of background before we get started with the meeting and some logistics. So on the logistical side, I will note that we are recording this meeting, and if my technology worked correctly, we're also live streaming it on Facebook so that we can share this information with as many people as possible. So just to make folks aware of that. I'll also ask that people keep themselves muted until the end of the meeting, where we'll have a chance for lots of conversation and dialogue, but I do encourage people to participate by chat with questions, comments, and Marissa, who will introduce herself in a second, and I are going to do our best to kind of stay on top of questions as they arise. So a couple other things. So first of all, just in terms of what this meeting is about and why we do these. So we hold the Our West Bayfront community gatherings twice a year, typically. Really is just a chance to share some updates on projects that we're working on, as well as provide an opportunity for other organizations to share updates or information on things that they are working on that impact the West Bayfront community. And then also as a way for people to connect within the West Bayfront, residents, community partners, organizations, etc. I want to acknowledge that we do have several members of the Our West Bayfront Board of Directors on the call this evening. Some of those folks have already introduced themselves in the chat. If they want to give us a wave, that would be great. The board works very, very hard on behalf of the organization and on behalf of the neighborhood, and we're really appreciative of all of their efforts in the community. And then I'm also going to introduce Marissa Litzenberg, who is our AmeriCorps Vista and the other person who is in the office 24/7 trying to keep projects moving forward, and she will be talking about a couple different topics this evening. We have a very packed agenda for this meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and share my slides so we can see what's up and what we're going to be doing today. Okay. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if you all can see the PowerPoint? Perfect. Curtis, thank you so much. Deb, thank you. So we've got a busy agenda, lots going on that we want to go through. So this will move pretty quickly. We have several special guests that will be speaking this evening. We're going to start by hearing from folks from Erie Insurance. We have a group that's working on behalf of our West Bayfront on a few projects for us through the Thomas B. Hagen Leadership Fellowship. They're going to talk a little bit about what that program is and how it's assisting our West Bayfront on some key projects that we've identified for them. So Lisa and Lynn will be talking in a minute about those projects. I'll be covering an update about the 5-year plan that we've been working on. Then we're going to hear from Patrick Fisher, who unfortunately couldn't be here live, but we did a pre-recorded segment talking about a proposed work of public art for Gridley Park. Then Tom Ferraro, who I know I saw him, is going to be talking about a mural that he has in the works for West 3rd Street. Marissa's going to talk about Lights on Our West Bayfront. Gary Kanonchek is going to be talking about the anti-litter initiative that a group of residents and community members have kicked off in the last couple of months. Candace is going to talk about our neighborhood associations, and then finally Marissa will close it out with some exciting events. And then we'll close out with some conversations, and there were some questions that came in advance of the meeting from people who registered, so we're going to do our best to answer those questions as well as any others that come up throughout this meeting. Before we get into the full meeting, I did have, I can't do this at the same time. I did want to cover a couple quick, there it is. Sorry, Zoom issues. Do have a couple quick questions that we want to try to do a poll on. There we go. So the first question is, what is your connection to the West Bayfront community? So did you join this meeting because you're a resident, because you're a community member, you work in the neighborhood, you go to school, you worship here, you're a partner to our West Bayfront, or you have some other connection? And the second question is whether you've attended one of these events before. So if folks are able to respond to those real quick, we'll just get a sense of who is in the virtual room. And I think the polling only lets you choose one choice, so I know we have a lot of people who wear multiple hats, so we understand that. So this is great. So lots of residents, but also lots of partners and community members, and a few others. And then it's nice to see that we have almost a third of the participants tonight have not been to a community gathering before. So we love that. We love having new faces involved and participating in these events. So thank you so much. That's really helpful. Okay, I'm gonna end that. And then we can move on and we can hand it right over to Lynn. Oh, did you not all see that? Here, there we go. I don't know if that shared, but there are the results for the polling. So good distribution on both questions. Okay. And then we're gonna just switch right into our friends from Erie Insurance. So Lynn, do you want to take it away? Lynn and Lisa?
Yes, I think I can take it away, and I'm going to give an introduction of the Thomas B. Hagen Fellowship, and also talk a little bit about the commercial development piece of the capstone project. So hello everyone, I am Lynn Twilley Darby, an underwriting consultant at Erie. This is the second year of the Thomas B. Hagen Fellowship program. This program is designed for Erie employees who seek to participate and have some impact in the community while also enhancing their work-related skills. This year, there are 15 of us who are participating in this cohort, and we represent various divisions of the Erie family. This program seeks to strengthen our civic knowledge, expand our community connections, and also hone our leadership skills. Now, this program provides us with an understanding of what effective civic engagement looks like. And what we've been doing is looking at Erie's history, the demographics. We've taken a look at government and the local and economic community development efforts that have a potential to change the landscape of our region. And this year's journey has been pretty eye-opening as we see the challenges of our region, but also we're getting an opportunity to offer some meaningful recommendations through this capstone project that we will focus on with your organization, our West Bayfront. So today we're going to share information about the community project that we're working on for OWB. And in addition to working on this monumental capstone project, we're also in the process of reading a book called New Localism: How Cities Can Thrive in the Age of Populism by Bruce Katz. This book highlights cities in this country and in Europe. And those are cities that, you know, Mr. Katz saw, who have embraced the concept of out-of-the-box thinking and partnering with various groups in the community, including educational organizations, philanthropic organizations, and community groups like yours, and corporate entities like Erie. Now, while we've been on this track, we have come to know the work of OWB, and we are working very hard to provide some future recommendations that's going to keep OWB thriving and offering impactful resources to your community. So this cohort of ours has been split into two groups. The capstone project number one is the commercial development piece. And then there's capstone project number two, which is the building neighborhood equity piece. And I'm going to share with you about the commercial development piece. And later on, you will hear from Lisa Holman, who's going to talk to you about building the neighborhood equity piece. Now, our West Bayfront is home to more than 100 small businesses in a variety of industries. And with the onset of the 2020 pandemic, it became apparent that many small businesses had some difficulty navigating this type of a crisis. Okay, so currently OWB does not have a small business support strategy. So it's our goal to outline an OWB small business support strategy that will complement existing economic development efforts and which will reflect the diversity of the existing and potential neighborhood small businesses. The Commercial Development Committee is going to offer a 2 to 3 year action plan that will include information about small business development resources, marketing and financing recommendations to support current businesses, and what we can do to attract new businesses to the OWB. We plan to provide some zoning and regulatory information that will impact small businesses and share recommendations on what types of businesses to recruit to the area, including a plan for vacant properties. So let me share with you the different tracks that make up the Commercial Development Committee. So we've been on a journey to understand the existing economic development efforts and businesses in OWB. That's one track. Another track is our small business interviews, which we're in the process of doing right now. And then there is the government and finance research track, along with the business support program research track. Now, our first effort was identifying your vacant commercial spaces. OWB has several spaces that have been vacant for years. We found that some of those are abandoned church, an abandoned church. I shouldn't say churches. I don't want to make it sound worse than what it is, but there is an abandoned church, a former bar, and numerous other small corner commercial spaces. Now, our business interview track has been quite engaging as we have interviewed quite a few business owners who live and work in the OWB. And we've also interviewed the owners of businesses that are outside the OWB footprint. And we have received great feedback that we will utilize for our recommendations. Our research has also engaged with other organizations and government officials and funding sources. We've started conversations with several supporting organizations and local government officials. And this information that we've received has been very valuable, and it's going to benefit current and future OWB businesses. But we've discovered multiple funding sources that include grant options and other financing options that we will share with you when we present our capstone project. And we are exploring options to bring business owners together to discuss ideas, aspirations, and needs. And this information will become available once we've solidified plans for this town hall style event. Anna, next slide, please. So on this slide, we'd like to thank these businesses for taking the time to talk to us as we executed our business interview plan. And, we've interviewed, several different businesses in the footprint, as you can see by that slide. The funeral homes that are in the community, your nonprofit agency known as the MLK Center in your community, Pineapple Eddie. The latest addition to your community, I think, is called Parista Cat Cafe. So, we've been hard at work, talking to these business owners to come up with some solid recommendations that will benefit OWB in the future. Now, finally, I must acknowledge my teammates who make up the commercial development team, and hopefully they are on camera, or if not, if they are present, as I call your name, just turn your camera on and wave at the people. So the team is made up of Nathan Ehrman, Nicholas Generis. Oh, Nicholas Generis. Clarissa Hicks.
Good evening, everyone.
Erica Klecker.
Good evening. Hi.
Brittany Rusnak.
Hi there.
And Dennis DJ Snyder. And I am Lynn Twilley Darby, and I want to thank you for your time and for your attention. And next up to share highlights of the Residential Equity Project is Lisa Homan.
Sorry, had a little trouble getting off mute. Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate your introduction. As she said, I'm Lisa Holman, and I'm a director at Erie Insurance and have been with the company for 17 years, and I'm thrilled to be here. So this track of work is the homeownership project. And Anna challenged us with a couple of problem statements, and one of them is long-term rental or home ownership within our West Bayfront. So our goal was really to better understand the scope of the issue of neighborhood equity and home ownership, so that we could develop potential programmatic or policy responses at the neighborhood level. We want to provide our West Bayfront, similar to what Lynn said on the commercial side, actionable programmatic recommendations to improve home ownership, with the execution beginning over the next 2 years. So similarly to the commercial side, we began with research. We really needed to understand what is the current state of our West Bayfront. So what's happening day to day there? And so one of the big things that we did was interviews and discussions with different groups. So we started with some local realtors and relocation specialists, and just asked some questions such as, what things seem attractive to prospective buyers? So we learned that bedrooms, garages, bathrooms, parking, small plots of land, school district are really important to homeowners. And so what we will do as a team is look at those things and see where our West Bayfront is doing a great job or has those resources, and where there's some opportunity where we could make some recommendations. The realtors also shared like who's buying. And so we learned that investors and house flippers are some of the big buyers in our West Bayfront. Some of the benefits from the realtor's perspective of our West Bayfront is it's close to downtown. It has a beautiful water view, and it's a strong price point. Some things that would attract people to our West Bayfront is more neighborhood involvement, which I know Anna and team are hard at work at, as well as you all and the neighborhood associations, and also more green space, and again, something else that is being worked on. We then began to interview some residents of our West Bayfront, and some of those, a lot of those residents, the renters and the homeowners work at Erie Insurance. And so we were able to gather some feedback from them. And we learned quite a bit about why they were interested in renting or owning there, what keeps them there, what types of things might make them move. And we're finding very similar trends as the realtors shared with us. We also took an opportunity to interview landlords in OWB. And so heard from them, and again, hearing some similar information. So we're going to take all that great information provided to us to be able to make some recommendations to Anna and team. Some of the other research that we did was looking at property transfers, evictions and foreclosure data, and home buyer education programs. So we're learning quite a bit about evictions and foreclosures. We didn't really initially, when we started, think that was going to be something we would find an issue with or need to make recommendations about, but we're finding that evictions, eviction filings are are quite extensive in our West Bayfront. In fact, the 2 zip codes in our West Bayfront represent 2 of the highest zip codes in Erie, in the Erie County area for eviction filings. And so we're going to continue to dig into that and see if there are some very specific reasons that we can find for that, and therefore subsequent programmatic recommendations. We're also researching the home buyer education programs that are available to help homeowners to be able to purchase homes, but also to successfully stay in homes. We're recognizing through our research that mortgage assistance sometimes is needed in addition to home buyer education programs. So somebody might have successfully purchased a home, but now they're struggle staying in their home. And so it's been great research. We've learned some things that we really weren't expecting to see, and we've had some things solidified that we were expecting to see. So we look forward to our capstone project and our recommendations to Anna and the Our West Bayfront team. I, like Lynn, would like to call out the team who has been diligently working on this. And so if you could just pop on camera, Courtney Stedding, if she's here, Charles Spat.
Good evening, everyone.
Carl Orsinski,
Good evening. Nice to be here.
Robert Moore, Adam Groves,
Hello. Thank you.
Lisa Diepold,
Hi, everyone.
and Yai Win Dai. Okay, so thank you so much for having us, and we look forward to sharing more with you in the future. And I'll turn it back over to Anna.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was great. And I really hope that folks can see the enormous amount of work that this team is putting in on behalf of our West Bayfront, and the very thorough effort they're making in talking to lots of people and doing real deep research into some issues that, frankly, we're a small organization and we wouldn't even be able to hope to tackle these 2 questions at the depth that these folks, this team is doing. So we're really excited about the work and excited to see the recommendations that they come up with, which will certainly be shared with the community later this spring. If you joined us after we kicked off the meeting, I just want to extend a welcome to everyone again to the spring community gathering for our West Bayfront. We're going to move into our next topic of many for this evening's meeting. And again, encouraging people to share any questions or thoughts or ideas in the chat, and we'll do our best to respond as the conversation goes along. So the next thing that I wanted to cover with folks is an update on our community plan update. If you joined us in the fall for our fall community gathering, we shared that we were working on an update to the Our West Bayfront community plan. That plan is the document and the set of recommendations that really guides the work that we do here at our West Bayfront. And it was developed back in 2016 with a tremendous amount of community involvement, and identified a whole number of recommendations on initiatives and projects that the community wanted to see happen to strengthen the West Bayfront neighborhoods. That plan is still very, very relevant. Not a lot of time has passed since then, but some pretty significant things have happened since 2016. Our West Bayfront was formed as a nonprofit organization, and we actually were able to start working on some of those projects. We were able to get more volunteers involved. Grants were secured to fund some of the projects that we've been working on. We've done more neighborhood events. We have a strong network of partners that help organize events and projects. I'll also say there's been a pandemic since 2016, and also the city administration has been much more involved with neighborhood revitalization. So the landscape in Erie looks a little different than I think it did back in 2016. So it was time to kind of look again at our plan and think about what really rises to the top. What are the things that we need to focus on for the next 5 years, given a landscape of resources that are not infinite, and maybe what things do we need to de-emphasize over the next several years. So that's what we've been doing really since June of last year is working on this plan update. That process has included a lot of different steps, including surveys. We've gotten nearly 400 responses to surveys that were done all through last summer. A number of individual interviews, as well as group discussions. A set of draft recommendations was developed. And I should have said that at the last community gathering, if you were on that meeting, you heard and participated with our consultants from City Architecture who helped us through this process. So that feedback also helped to inform these recommendations. And then late last year, a set of draft recommendations was developed and shared with both our advisory committee and with our board of directors. We are now at the stage where we're really in finalization mode. And so we're sharing that final plan. And also we've developed a more detailed work plan, which is really the work that we're going to be doing over the next 5 years. The next slide will share some of that. And there's more detail on our website, and I'll point that out in a minute. But moving forward, the goal is to present all this to the City of Erie so that we make sure that our partners at the city are kind of on board with where we're headed. They've been huge supporters and very much involved with everything that we're working on, and we want to continue that. And then really just continuing the work and getting things done over the next several years. I did include on here, I know it's a little hard to see, but one of our survey questions asked if you're familiar with our West Bayfront, which of the initiatives that we do you feel have been most important for the neighborhood? And I love these responses in part because there's some that kind of rise to the top, providing grants to property owners. I think this one is improving neighborhood parks, but you'll see that there's sort of interest in many of the different things that our West Bayfront and our volunteers and partners are involved with, which is great, but it also means that there's some tough decisions to make in terms of where we focus. So for the update, real broadly, we have a number of different areas that kind of emerged and sort of solidified in terms of the things that we do. So everything from housing, work around helping property owners maintain and repair their homes, maintaining affordability, considering code enforcement in the community, looking at economic development, specifically around West 8th Street, which is our sort of main neighborhood commercial corridor, local business support, as Lynn was just talking about. We want to do a little bit more to support our local businesses. On infrastructure, waterfront connections was a theme that came up, strengthening those opportunities to get from the West Bayfront down to the water, but also activating and beautifying our public realm, our streets, our parks, all of the public spaces within the community. Safety came through as an issue, so both in terms of crime, but also thinking about traffic and operations and sort of, when you're moving around the community, do you feel safe and do you feel comfortable? Is it easy to do that? And then social and events. So these are the community building things where people can come together, connect, work together, and really build the capacity of the West Bayfront. And then finally, there's a section on how we as an organization will thrive in the long term. What does our staffing look like? How are we funded? What's the sustainability of this organization? And also, how are we measuring success? So these are sort of the broad areas of focus and some goals within those different areas. And I'll say that I think kind of part of the message that all the outreach work that came through all that outreach work is that much of what we've been working on has been responsive to the needs of the community. For example, like the housing repair initiatives that have been going on. There were a few that sort of emerged as things that maybe we want to either spend more attention on or kind of go a little more deeply. So around home ownership. So that's, again, connected back to that Erie Insurance project. How can we strengthen homeowners and attract new homeowners into the community and sort of improve that neighborhood stability? local business being an area where we need to develop a more robust strategy for supporting our local businesses. And then waterfront connections, spending more time thinking about how do we create those physical connections to the waterfront. So the next stage of this is really kind of asking for one more round of input. So what we've done, because this is a pretty detailed plan, is rather than share all 30 specific recommendations in this meeting, I would encourage folks who are interested in getting more into the nitty-gritty to visit our website at ourwestbayfront.org /spring 2022, where you will see a more detailed version of the draft plan update and also our 5-year work plan. And then invite folks to take a look and respond with any questions, recommendations. Let us know if you feel that what's in that plan responds to the needs that you're seeing on your block. You know, what you see and hear and feel when you talk to your neighbors, and help us, you know, make sure that we're not missing anything or shouldn't think about things any differently. So I do hope that folks will take a look and kind of get into that and share any comments. You can call me directly. My phone number's on that website, or email, however is easiest for you to communicate. I also, in the meeting chat this evening, please feel free to share any thoughts or questions if there's any glaring thing that you'd like to respond to tonight. We definitely want your feedback on all of this. I also want to thank everybody who's participated in this process. If you're one of the 400 people that took the time to respond to a survey, Curtis Lofton, who's I think on the meeting tonight and also in this picture, I hope he doesn't mind that I used it. That's him being interviewed through this process. I really want to thank everybody for being part of this work, because it's really important and as we define our priorities going forward. And so I'm going to move on, I think, to the next section. And again, we will have a chance for lots of questions and conversations at the end, but feel free to dump any questions in the chat if there are any in the meantime. Okay, and then we are going to move on and talk about some public art projects, some really exciting projects that are taking shape for the neighborhood. The first one is what's called the Kaleidoscope Grove. And that's a project that's being led by Erie Arts and Culture and proposed for Gridley Park. Unfortunately, Patrick Fisher, who's with Erie Arts and Culture and who is heading up that project, couldn't be here this evening because of a different commitment for his organization. So Patrick and I talked last week and recorded his kind of presentation of this artwork. And I'm going to switch gears right now to pull up a portion of that conversation. Our full conversation is actually on that same website. So if folks want to watch the full conversation, they can see that. But I'm just going to play a piece of that right now. If I can do this.
Hi everybody, my name is Patrick Fisher. I'm the Executive Director of Erie Arts and Culture. I apologize that I can't be with you live for the meeting, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to meet today with Anna to go over a presentation about Kaleidoscope Grove, an interactive public art piece that is slated to be installed in Erie's urban core. In total, there are 2 installations. One is dedicated to Erie's West Bayfront neighborhood, and the other is dedicated to Erie's East Bayfront neighborhood. I'm going to go over the project a little bit and to give some insight about how we got to where we are today. And then I'm going to have a conversation with Anna where I can answer perhaps some of your questions so that you can all feel more comfortable about this project moving forward. So a little bit about this project background. It's actually been about 3 years in the making. So in 2018, Erie Arts and Culture received a Shape It Tomorrow grant from the Erie Community Foundation. And part of our grant application called for creating what I will call sister sculptures to again be installed in East Erie and West Erie. So we started that work in 2019 when we similarly had a neighborhood assistance program grant from Erie Insurance and the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. As part of that initiative, we paired together 2 artists, one from Erie and the other from just outside of Erie. So we paired together Shasti O'Leary-Spence, who is a established artist and professor of design, with Esther Ortiz. Esther is a self-taught pinata artist here in Erie with really great intuition and really great design. And they started leading a series of community engagement sessions to learn more about the present sentiment and mentality of those who reside in Erie's urban core. And that started in 2019 and it carried on into 2020. And then obviously the world changed somewhat as a result of the pandemic. So a little bit about Shasti. So Shasti O'Leary-Sudan is a transdisciplinary artist, designer, and writer who investigates the interstitial space between digital and physical in an effort to create allegories that explore and talk about power dynamics. For the last 7 years, she has created boldly colored monumental sculpture installations inspired by philosophy, politics, and scientific concepts that investigate public engagement and interaction. Using a wide range of media and materials to create these immersive experiences, she aims to explore hidden systems that draw attention to ideas surrounding human relationships, balance, and anthropology. And Shasti has work throughout the United States. As I mentioned, she's just north of us in Buffalo, and there's some public sculptures of her there in Buffalo. But she has sculptures throughout other cities in the United States as well, including Jacksonville, Florida, which is how I met her when I was down there working for the Council of Greater Jacksonville. And a little bit about Esther. Esther Ortiz grew up in California with 8 sisters. Her parents did not have much money, so they all made everything. One sister was a baker, many were musicians, others were dress designers. Esther was a party person. Even as a young child, she would plan and make party crafts. Esther loves making things with her hands, and she's self-taught, and she has taught herself how to create pinatas. Esther can make the traditional form, but also pinatas of cartoon characters, wedding cakes, Air Jordan sneakers, avocados, and other contemporary objects. She loves thinking creatively and using her sense of humor. Esther is the only pinata maker in our region. So the reason we paired Esther and Shasti is because their design aesthetics aligned quite well. But we also wanted to build the capacity of Esther. When we met Esther, she was working primarily in just cardboard and paper. And she was making work that, was 2 feet tall or less. Now she's making massive pieces. She's increased the scale of her work, and she's really advanced her perspective around what it means to be an artist in our community, and is thinking more about her work from a place of sculpture. So as I mentioned, the artists had done a number of community engagement sessions to help inform their design. They didn't come to the table with a pre-proposed design. They actually wanted to use what they gathered at the community level to inform their design. And one of the things that we realized was that Erie is going through a notable change right now, and it has been over the last few years. And as we work to become the best version of ourselves, sometimes that means needing to see things with a different perspective. Whether we see our opportunities with a different perspective, see our communities with a different perspective, or even see our neighbors with a different perspective. And that was what informed this project. So the artist statement that I'm about to read was actually provided by Shasti. Kaleidoscope Grove is comprised of 2 sets of 3 trees ranging between 6 and 7 feet tall. Kaleidoscope Grove is an installation of a functioning collection of open-ended 3-sided kaleidoscopes, each pointed along 8 different axes, allowing people to see a multiplicity of different perspectives. Each tree is powder-coated in a different brilliant color to allude to the vibrance, diversity, and liveliness of the surrounding neighborhoods. So the image in the background is actually what you see when you look through the channel, which is this kaleidoscope effect. And this image is of Kaleidoscope Grove. So there would be one of these clusters of 3 in a West Bayfront neighborhood and a cluster of 3 in a East Bayfront neighborhood. And the intention of that is to really try to create a relationship between these communities that have historically been quite divided, just because there's a 1 or 2 streets that divide us, right? It's like this State Street determines whether you're West Erie, but then there's this mentality of having these sister sculptures. We're hoping that we can bridge that some. And as Shasti mentioned in her artist statement, there's 8 different axes that you will be able to engage with on each of the 3 trees that are part of one of the clusters. The artist was really intentional about thinking about the height of each one of those channels so that we made sure that both children as well as individuals who might be seated in wheelchairs have the ability to engage with and participate with these sculptures. I had participated in National Night Out in 2021 and set up to talk about these sculptures with our community. I did not complete a paper survey because I think sometimes our community can be a little surveyed out, but I made sure that I engaged people in conversations about it. So there were 2 primary questions that I asked. Where along the West Bayfront do you think this should be installed? And some of the suggestions that we provided in advance was the Bayview Park, Cascade Park, or Gridley Park. The other question that I asked individuals to think about was if they could assign 3 colors teaching tool for science and mathematics and other things. And they were also just excited about it being a type of art that we don't presently have in our community. The overwhelming response that I received around location was Gridley Park. People felt that Bayview Park was receiving already a lot of attention and that there was a lot of things being installed down there between public art for Pontiac Field and the splash pad. And similarly, they felt like Cascade Park might not be enough foot traffic for something like this. So overwhelmingly, the response was Gridley Park for the West Erie installation point. As far as the colors are concerned, that was definitely a much broader range of responses, but it was really great to see people thinking about, how they would apply color to their neighborhood. So we're at a point now where the work has been not only designed, but actually fabricated. It was fabricated here in Fairview, and then it was sent to Buffalo for powder coating, and now it is back in Fairview for some additional touch-ups. But the objective would be to install it sometime in the spring or summer of this year so that our community can actually start engaging with it. And that's the gist of all of this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that I can actually go into conversation mode with Anna and answer any questions that you all as community members have maybe expressed to her or any questions that she might have as the executive director of our West Bayfront.
Thanks so much, Patrick. That was a great overview. And just to be clear, so Patrick is not going to be live when we're sharing this with you at the community gathering, but I'll do my best to answer questions in the moment and follow up afterwards with him as needed. And that's where I'm going to pause the video because Patrick and I, we kept talking for another 10 or 15 minutes or so. So I'll just say that video is actually on YouTube. If folks want to continue watching it and learn a little bit more about the piece and his thoughts and some good conversation, I do encourage you to go check that out. I'm juggling a few windows here, so thanks for bearing with me. We could take poor Patrick off. As Patrick and I are chatting now, let's see. Get us back to our slides, and I'm going to hand it over to Tom in a minute, but I do want to point out where the rest of that video can be seen. Here we go. Okay, so are we back on our slides? Yep, okay, thanks, Marissa. So if folks want to see the rest of my conversation with Patrick about that artwork, please do go to our website, ourwestbayfront.org/spring2022, and you'll see the rest of the video on YouTube. And I do, if folks have initial reactions or thoughts or questions, please do share them in the chat. I haven't really seen anything come through yet, but we do want to hear what people are thinking about that. there were some concerns, we did talk to some folks around Gridley Park, and there are some concerns about, the care for the piece and what happens if there's graffiti on it. One of the things that we talked about is it feels like a very playful structure, so it might make sense for it to be situated close to the playground rather than sort of standing alone in the grass in a grassy field. So that's one thought, but if there's a thought about where specifically that piece might be situated, whether it's Gridley Park or somewhere else, please share that. And then I'm going to hand it over now to Tom Ferraro to talk about another work of art that he's working on for the corner of West 3rd Street and Cascade Street. So Tom, are you ready to jump on here?
I'm ready.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, so am I on?
You are on.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm not going to take up a lot of time tonight because this project is just getting started. And I really just wanted to maybe give everybody an overview of what we're looking at, maybe a little background on the site itself, and a little timeline as to how I see this unfolding. So we're looking at a private residence, the lower part of the slide, that is on the corner of 3rd and Cascade. It is right across the street from Cascade Park, or Barbara Nitkowitz Park. And it also happens to coincide with a project that I've worked in the past along Cascade Street. So there are actually 3 pieces on Cascade Street, 2 small murals that one is on 4th and one is on the corner of 8th and Cascade. And they were done with students at Strong Vincent Middle School. I also was commissioned to do a sculpture piece along with a couple of other artists that is, which we call Sungate, which is it's an archway that's over the bike path that takes us from the corner of 2nd and Cascade down to the Bayfront. So I guess I just wanted to, as this project's taking off, I wanted to let everybody know that would be interested that I do not do projects that kind of is what Tom Ferraro wants to do. I like to do projects that are community engaged and getting input from community to do these projects. So most of the projects that you see that I've done, and I've done several in our West Bayfront, including the MLK Center, and there's a piece in the Church of the Covenant. I did me and my artist team did the project on Pontiac Field. I'm soon to have a piece, I don't think it's quite in our West Bayfront, it's about a half a block over, for Gannon University in front of their IHAC building, a sculpture piece. But my point is that all those projects were informed by community. So I have a pretty good feel for some of what, especially really a multi-generational kind of survey of what folks see as part of our West Bayfront. And, particularly the students at Strong Vincent Middle School and Gannon University, which is, a funder for this particular project. So, so I welcome input from anybody in the community that has ideas. Again, because this is a private residence, I have spoken to the property owner, and I have a lot of input from the property owner, and that will go a long way in terms of informing the content of the mural. I can tell you from that conversation that we're probably looking at something that is maybe somewhat musical and reflective of what we see in our Bayfront. I've met with the Bay and Harbor Association. We've talked a little bit about some of the history of the area. I love to hear stories about your personal experience with the area, with maybe, something along the bluffs, shipbuilding and so on that's happened in the past. So I'm open, I'm wide open at this point. You will find me, Saturday was, our first kind of nice day. So I wandered over to the park and I plunked myself down at the picnic table that overlooks, it's just a fabulous view there. And I just sat and did some sketches, and I managed to corral a couple of folks from the Laurel Wellerstein apartments that are on the corner of 2nd and Cascade. And I was able to do a little exercise with one of the residents with her wheelchair. And we made some marks on a piece of fabric that I brought. And those are the kinds of things that I do to try to spark some ideas of creativity. So I plan to hang around the park a bit on nice days. I kind of looked at the weather to see if I could give you a day that I would be there, but I didn't find a day that I thought was going to be warm enough that we would all be there. But I will get things out, and hopefully, we'll be able to move forward with community input on this particular mural as well. Timeline, I'm hoping to have design completed probably within about a 30-day period. And then typically the murals are that I do are painted on fabric, and then they're adhered to the building. So I plan to have at least 1 or 2 community paint days that, again, with nice weather, we could do them right in the park. If not nice weather, maybe Anna will raid the offices and we'll just find a wall and we'll do something in the office. But that's kind of the plan, and hopefully by early summer, this mural will be complete and the graffiti will be gone. That's all I've got.
Thanks, Tom. That is fantastic. We're really excited to see how this project progresses, and really looking forward to the community paint days when we have warm, sunny weather and we can be out there at Cascade Park with everyone lending a hand. If you want to make sure that you get notifications about when that type of event happens, please make sure that you are signed up for our West Bayfront emails. If you did not get an email from us about, for example, this evening's community gathering, several went out. They might have gone into your spam file. So that's one thing to look for, just to make sure that our West Bayfront is a trusted sender, but we'll certainly be keeping folks updated about both of these art projects as they progress. And then again, if you want to check out and provide Tom with some more feedback on the mural, he's got some really interesting and thoughtful questions about people's perspectives on the neighborhood, on the waterfront, on the park. If you visit ourwestbayfront.org/spring 2022, there's a quick survey there that you can take. And those questions were shared with the Bay and Harbor Association, which is the neighborhood watch group that serves and operates in that particular area. So thanks again, Tom, for all you're doing. And thanks for, we've got a few comments in the chat. So thank you everybody for those comments. Keep them coming. We like to see that. And we're gonna switch to the next topic now, if I can get this to work. Okay, Marissa, I think you are up to talk about lights on.
Hi, everyone. Like Anna mentioned at the beginning, my name is Marissa Litzenberg, and I'm the AmeriCorps Vista at our West Bayfront. So if I haven't met you yet, I'm hoping soon, as the spring and summer comes, we have a chance to connect. So Lights on our West Bayfront is a project that was started with the Vista before me, Derek, and the goal is to make the West Bayfront streets and blocks more welcoming by increasing visibility, improving safety, and promoting care for your neighbor. And so we have the opportunity to fund front porch lights on properties that currently have them and they don't work or don't have them at all. So I kind of took the baton from Derek, and so far we've had 281 LED sensor bulbs distributed. So if you saw me at National Night Out, I had light bulbs. At West Bayfit, I had light bulbs. I still have light bulbs. They are sensor light bulbs. They turn off during the day and turn on at night. If you're interested in that, we can get you one of those. 6 homes so far have received exterior light repair. You can see the one in the photo has a light pole. Others have received fixtures on the front, and we have 2 more in the works right now. That is another thing that if you are interested in taking advantage of, certainly we can talk about that. Kind of an offshoot of Lights On is, there's a couple of offshoots from it, but one of the first ones was trash cans. So currently around the community, there are 10 trash cans being posted by residents. And thank you if you're a resident on this call and you host a trash can. That is awesome. That just basically means that residents have agreed to take care of a trash can, either in front of or near their property. The opportunity to do that. And I think this past summer was the first one that we did it. And so we're hoping for another successful summer for that as well. And so kind of moving forward into what is next. And if you want to go to the next slide, we have a couple more offshoots. So one of the things that we're doing is we are providing street trees. We have about 20 right now that residents we're working with to get them street trees. Once again, if that's something that you're interested in, we could certainly talk more about that. We've identified, I spent over the summer a lot of time sitting and counting pedestrians for crosswalks in places that residents have indicated are high traffic areas for pedestrians, but maybe also high concerns for pedestrian safety. And so through that, we identified about 10 or so different locations around our community that has high pedestrians count, but maybe a concern of their safety. And with that, we worked with the city to kind of see if we could put some high visibility crosswalks in. And so basically just the paint that you would see, but just higher visibility. And then also including those yield or stop for pedestrian crosswalk signs, which would also get put in along with the repaint. And so those include, we're looking at both sides of Bayview Park when you cross 2nd Street, 6 in Cranberry, Gridley Park, not all crosswalk sections of Gridley Park, but specifically the ones where you cross the sidewalk from Emerson Gridley, either to the park or from the park to the school, Cascade and 4th Street and Cascade and 3rd Street. So we'll be looking to see that go in, hopefully as it starts to warm up a little bit. And then finally, we've created a signage plan for the beginning stages of a Welcome to our West Bayfront sign. So we now have a list of locations that residents and our committees have identified as areas that could benefit from a our West Bayfront sign or Welcome to our West Bayfront sign, stuff like that. So if there's anything that you have feedback on or anything that you want to get involved in or learn more about, my phone number and my email is down there, and we can certainly get that conversation started. I'm now going to throw it over to Gary. Gary is a member of our anti-litter committee, and he's going to share with everyone a little bit about what that committee is doing, how it started, and how you can get involved. So Gary, if you're ready to go.
I think I am, Marissa, thank you. So a few months ago, our committee started to meet, chosen as the spokesperson for today. But when I first got requested or signed up to get involved, I thought, well, where's my a set of gloves and some trash bags, and we'll pick up some stuff and get something done. Unfortunately, folks on the team caused the viewpoint to be much broader. I hate to use the term strategic because I think it's overused, but certainly it was a focus on causes. I do think the timing is perfect for this type of a committee to come up with solutions, because 5 or 10 years ago it was impossible. There was no pride of ownership anywhere. Clearly, everybody in this group today on this call would have pride, no matter where you live, of ownership and doing things to clean up around your own house. And probably, if there's something laying around, you pick it up. You don't worry about who did it and why. But our goal is to, yes, eventually do some cleanup, but to instill pride of ownership throughout OWB, which is solving. Way easier said than done. But the subcommittee includes residents and other individuals that seek to improve the physical appearance. Great research was done by subcommittee members about we have to find systemic improvements, we have to change behavior, and we have to communicate positive the positivity of actions taken to improve the litter situation. A couple comments from the research that others did is we imitate the action of those around us. And we have to address norms and expectations. Change these and you'll change behavior. Many of the folks from your insurance, which I'm a retiree of, understand, and perhaps many other people, broken windows theory. This theory holds that people are more likely to break windows, write graffiti, deface the environment, and of course litter if it's already defaced. And so if and when we're able to continue the positive momentum, it's likely to really grow in a positive way. One of the some of the research stated that about littering studies is pre-littered areas always have higher littering rates. That kind of makes sense. If you're in an area where trash is everywhere, you kind of think it's okay. Well, it's never okay. And there's most of OWB, it's not okay, but there are certain areas of, let's call them opportunity to, again, get back to that cleanup. And maybe if and when we do a physical cleanup, we can begin to instill that sense of ownership and pride in the community. Some of the other things that the committee has talked about is assessment and measurement. How can you ever be against that? That type of a data, and could be tough, but we're going to be vigilant about that and see if we can assess and measure and maybe change tactics in some ways. Eventually, there'll be wide involvement of various constituencies to do some cleanups, and certainly there'll be some likelihood of focusing on certain problem areas and or businesses that generate litter. That's about it. I wanted to be brief and tell you what's going on with the subcommittee and what's guiding the actions of the subcommittee in the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Gary, for being the spokesperson for that great group. And we're grateful to everyone on that committee for the work that you're doing, again, as volunteers on behalf of the neighborhood, just trying to figure out how the West Bayfront can become an even better version of itself. I'll use this opportunity as a plug to say that there's lots of ways for people to get involved with our West Bayfront. Depending on what your time, your talents, your interests are, there may be a role for you. So if folks are interested in volunteering in some way, please be in touch with us and we will find a spot for you, whether it's on the litter subcommittee or at an event or in any of the many other ways that folks can get involved. And then please keep them coming. Thank you, Carrie, for identifying Liberty Street at the Bluff as a litter hotspot. If there's other places that people can think of where litter tends to accumulate, please put it in the chat or be in touch with Marissa and me after the meeting, because we are trying to make sure we have a very good list of those litter spots throughout the neighborhoods. And then I'm going to move it on and we're going to hand it over to Candace Battles, who is going to talk about the neighborhood associations. And I think we do have a good poll, but first I'll let Candace kick it off.
Thank you, Anna. Sorry, you're looking at 1957, 5th grade Candace Battles. I'm having a problem with getting my actual face on the camera, or cameras on. As Anna talked about the many ways to volunteer in the West Bayfront, another aspect of volunteership would be to be involved in your neighborhood association. We have 2, 4, 6 neighborhood groups within the West Bayfront, and so happy and proud that now we cover the whole entire area. So any neighbor, resident, business person that wants to be involved with their neighbors in helping to improve the living conditions in the West Bayfront or in their particular area has a group that they can become involved with. I believe we're going to have a poll.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right, Anna?
You are. I've got to figure out how to get there. Hold on a second.
Okay. Well, while she's getting there, oh, there it is. It's already up. Okay.
No, that's not it. What happened to my poll? Oh,
Okay,
wait, no, I know how to switch it. Here we go.
okay, all right.
There you go.
Okay, so the first thing about being involved in a neighborhood group is, do you know which neighborhood watch association or group serves the area where you live, work, play, or pray, or learn? And if you could answer here and submit your answer. And as you can see, now we cover the entire area. When we started, we had 4 groups, I believe, at varying degrees of activity. And now we do cover the entire area. And the next question on our poll is, and I think it's probably the most important one, is
I think the next one's not so much a poll, but more a chat response.
okay, all righty. So
are there certain issues or things that people want to make sure that their neighborhood association is aware of, has on their radar in their particular community?
if you could put that in the poll. Also, please feel free to, if there's something that you would particularly like to see happen in the block or blocks near your home or where you work, please feel free to put that in there. What kinds of things do you anticipate or expect to happen from your neighborhood association? We do, I think, generally have a number of things in common, though each group is somewhat different because each neighborhood is somewhat different. But one of the things we have in common is that pre-COVID, and now that we're hoping to be able to get together again physically, is to have our law enforcement officers represented and able to meet with the neighbors and get to know us. Having said that, Sergeant Jamie Russo with the Erie Police Department is on with us, and I'd like to thank him very much for his cooperation in working with Anna and all of the neighborhood, and Marissa and all of the neighborhood leaders in being able to try to address the issues that we bring to them from our neighbors. We've had interest in, actually, the new district attorney has shown up at our last meeting for West Bayfront Neighborhood Watch. So are there people that you would like to see at those meetings or have the opportunity to have contact? So I think I've given everyone some time to put something in the chat.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any responses yet to, oh, yep, one response about needing resources in the neighborhood.
Thank you. And if you could be a little bit more specific about what kind of resources. I've got people who have identified that we need to have more resources to help us deal with issues regarding mental health and behavioral health issues. I've heard people talk about we need resources to help us deal with drug and alcohol addictions, and we have a community resource that is actually housed right here in our West Bayfront that does addiction issues with Bedenzia, and it's different outlet offices across the area. Are there things that we're not doing that people would like to see? Events and activities for youth, and also voter registration drives. Those are all excellent. Mental health, and yes, we do need grocery stores and that is an area that is have been talking about and trying to find some things to deal with. And we need residents to come up and give us their ideas on what their needs are. Okay, then I'm going to move right along. And the last piece of this, I believe, is, do you know who to connect with or how to connect with your neighborhood association? One way is to visit the westbayfront.org website and go to the neighborhood groups area and pull that up, or you can call the office and talk to Anna or Marissa, and they will lead you right to someone to get you involved and welcome you into the neighborhood group that you belong to. Does anybody on here have any questions about neighborhood associations and neighborhood watch groups? Hearing none, I'm going to turn it back over to Marissa, who has another area to talk to us about. Thank you.
Thanks, Candace. Awesome. So I'm going to talk a little bit about events. So our events and outreach committee has already been at work at planning our 2022 calendar. And these are the 4 big things coming up soon. So Benevolent Beers is happening Thursday, March 31st at Erie Ale Works from 5 to 8 p.m. I'm personally really excited about it. This is our first opportunity to do this. And so I believe it's 10% of the money made at Erie Ale Works from that time period will go towards our West Bayfront. So I'm really excited for that. The OWB Spring Cleanup is happening then that Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at those 4 different locations. And so you're invited to come to whatever location is closest to you, and we can start doing a number of things, including litter pickup, debris pickup, stuff like that. And then we are really excited to be having an Erie Walks team, the OWB team for Erie Walks. So that is happening from April 4th to May 30th from the Erie County Health Department. We're so excited because we have so many walkers in our community. And so I'm feeling pretty confident about our chances personally. And so what it is you register for Team OWB. And then if you get 30 minutes of physical activity, specifically walking each day throughout that time period, it goes towards our overall score. And then we can see how we rank against that. Later, I'm going to be putting in the registration to get on our team, or you can go to ourwestbayfront.org/walks. If you are interested in doing this, and then also interested in being a team leader, AKA a person who hosts impromptu neighbor walks where you say, hey, you want to meet at West Park at 5 p.m. and go for a walk. If you're interested in being that person, definitely let's chat, because I think that would be a really cool way to get involved and see where we can go with that. And finally, we'll be participating in HIST Erie Week, which is a countywide initiative from the Erie County Library. We have 2 OWB themed walks. We have Home Again in OWB, which is a map that goes around and talks about the different really cool historical homes in our area. So keep an eye out for that. That's actually going to be a bike tour. But you can keep your eye out for that to be posted. And then we'll actually be having a walk based on our West Bayfit Walks African American History Walk, which will be an actual walk that we will be taking throughout that week. So just keep an eye out for when that will be occurring. Of course, you can always go to our website, ourwestbayfront.org/events, where you can find out more on Facebook or Instagram, or even just call or email Anna and I, we can fill you in. So I'm gonna now flip it back to Anna for some closing thoughts.
Thanks, Marissa. And I'm going to put in a special plug for the Erie Walks, our West Bayfront team, which we just got that registration up and running like in the past couple of days. The first group of registrants will get a free t-shirt thanks to our sponsors, UPMC Health Plan. So we'd love to see some folks from this community gathering, registering to be part of Team Our West Bayfront, and get that team going right. We know we've got a community of walkers, so please join the effort. And I'm seeing a question, Sherry, about whether there will be West Bayfront walks in the summer. And this year, no, we're not going to do, we've done, for those of you who don't know, we've done 2 years of West Bay walks, which are themed self-guided walks. This year, we're going to take a break from that and use the Erie walks as an opportunity to get our community moving. So this will take the place of that. But I do think we'll probably do some scheduled walks during those April, May months. So just real quick, and yes, Candace, I see you there. I'm going to do that in 1 second. Just before we get there, though, I want to take a minute to acknowledge our major supporters and partners that make all of this work happen. There's many, many organizations that contribute and support our West Bayfront in lots of different ways, and we're very grateful to them for their support and partnership. And then, of course, a plug for how people can stay updated and connected. So if you do not receive emails from us, please sign up for email updates. Make sure that our emails are not going into spam, which I think they often do. If you're interested in volunteering, there's a link on right there and also on our website for ways that you can volunteer for future events and activities. And then certainly we always welcome calls, emails, questions, lots of ways to get in touch with Marissa and me here in the office. That's my direct phone number, and please don't be afraid to use it if there's a question that you want to have answered about what's going on in the neighborhood. We'll do our best to get you an answer. In a minute, we are going to move on to sort of some open conversation and dialogue, because I think we do have a little bit of time. But before we do that, I did receive a few questions from folks who had registered for this meeting and sort of shared a question in advance. So I'm going to do my best to answer some of those first, and then we'll open it up more broadly. So first of all, Deb, had the great question of whether it's possible to share our West Bayfront information at polling places, which is a wonderful way to reach lots of residents who are coming to vote. I think there is an election coming up pretty soon. So we think that's a great idea, and we could use some help in doing that. So if anybody's interested in maybe staffing a poll table, or sort of not a table, but like, helping get the word out about our West Bayfront at the upcoming election, please fill out that SurveyMonkey link, or just shoot us an email or give us a call, and we'll get that organized for the upcoming election. We also had a question about discussing tree trimming and sidewalk repairs in city right-of-way. And I'm not exactly sure. I mean, what I can say about this is that the sidewalks that are directly in front of people's properties, and the trees that are also in that space, so not on the boulevards, but right in front of people's homes, sort of between the sidewalk and the street, are in sort of an unusual area, which they are the responsibility of the property owner to maintain and to trim, but they're also under the purview of the city, which has some regulations on how those trees have to be maintained, whether they can be cut down, which they can't be without city approval. And when you want to plant a tree there, you also do need city approval, although the city really supports, I think, tree planting in that sidewalk area. The sidewalk repairs also is a huge issue. We know we have lots of sidewalks that need repairs throughout the West Bayfront. We occasionally have some funding to do that. It's hard to come by, and it's also very expensive. So we're working on some thoughts on how we can kind of make that a little bit more efficient, and maybe, through our organization, support groups of property owners that want to repair their sidewalks. We do try to keep lists. So if you're a property owner and you've got a sidewalk that needs to be repaired and you don't have the funds for that, please give us a call, and we'll at least kind of put you on a list and know that you're out there. And as we have resources available, we'll be in touch to share that. We also got a question about code enforcement, what reasons code enforcement does or does not cite property owners, and whether code enforcement is proactive in our West Bayfront. And I unfortunately didn't get a response directly from code enforcement in time for this meeting, but I will follow up on that. But on the proactive question, I do know the answer to that piece. So right now, code enforcement is more reactive. So if you have a concern about a code violation, that there's a situation with a property, and you call code enforcement, they will go out there, they'll check it out, and they will usually, if there's a situation, send a notification to the property owner. That in itself does not fix the issue. That is purely a notification to the property owner that there's a code violation. It doesn't even, the code officers can't even fine property owners for many violations of the code, of the maintenance code. That actually has to be done by a district judge. So the process is very, very slow, and I think not quite as effective as many folks would like to see. Right now, I do not believe code enforcement is proactively going out and citing property owners in the West Bayfront. However, I do think that they have in plans to do that. They've got some additional staff recently that may become available to do a little more proactive outreach to property owners. And as that happens, we will do our best to keep people in the loop if we're kind of aware that that's happening. And I think it's something that certainly many people would like to see, because there's limited code enforcement activity, it feels sometimes, when just because the code officers are very busy and have a lot of blocks to handle. So I do always encourage people, if there's a code issue that you spot, to call your code enforcement officer or call the city's citizen response line. And maybe Marissa can help me out by dropping the phone number for the citizens response line in the chat, so I can answer this last question. But please do report code issues that you feel need to be addressed. And that relates to the last question, which is whether there's property repair assistance available. And the answer to that is yes. We currently have some funding through our West Bayfront, and then the city, using their American Rescue Plan dollars from the federal government, has made about $15 million available to the Erie Redevelopment Authority, which most of that will be used for various property repair programs, addressing both issues on the inside of homes like lead paint, plumbing, electrical, and also issues on the outside of properties. If you are curious about this, and there are some, as with any federal program, there's different sets of requirements and qualifications and so on. If you have any questions about whether your property might be a good fit for either of the programs, our West Bayfront or ERA, please give me a call, 871-7050, and I will do my best to figure out with you whether your property is a good fit. And I can also get you connected with the redevelopment authority process to kind of get you in the pipeline there. And then with that, I think I am going to, Marissa, thank you. So the citizens response line is 870-1111. If there's a code issue, really any other question for the city, that's the best line to call. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen sharing so we can look at each other and take a minute and see if there are other questions that have come up with about anything covered this evening, or thoughts or comments, anything anybody wants to share. This is now our time to do that. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions or comments, and I will, in the meantime, just really say thank you to everybody for joining this evening. But Deb, yes, go ahead.
Hi, Anna. Neighbors, that reminds me, the county really needs more volunteers at those polling places. It's just twice a year, pays $130 a day in cash, which is nice. It's a long day, but if any of you have ever thought about doing it, this is the time right now to call the county courthouse and offer your services. Just a thought.
Thank you. And you were breaking up a little bit for me, but I think I heard you say
hear me, Anna?
I think I've got the gist. So I think you're saying that the county needs more
Anna,
polling.
did you hear me?
Yeah.
No?
Yes. So the county needs more polling workers, I think. And you're saying that you can call the courthouse if you're interested in working at one of the poll locations, which I think is a Great
Yes.
point. Thank you. Candace, did you want to
Yes.
jump in and
Sure. As I was talking about the neighborhood groups, and I told you that Sergeant Jamie Rousseau's on the phone, I'd like to know if he would be kind enough to say hello and give us a word of wisdom or two. Please.
I absolutely will. Hello, everybody.
Thank
My
you.
name is Sergeant Jamie Russo. For those who don't know me, I've been with the Erie Police Department for approximately 20 years. Anna and Candace and I have worked pretty closely together over the last few. Happy to be here. Happy to be part of the gatherings and the community watch events. Just a couple of things I wanted to touch on that I took a few notes from earlier, some of the questions that might shed some light on a couple of things first before I get into my crime watch spiel. I think there was a question in reference to juvenile activities. What we've seen throughout the police department, I'm sure you all have experienced it down in the Lower West Side, is there's a lot of juvenile crime, a lot of juvenile violent crime, shootings. I actually have a meeting at the MLK Center tomorrow in attempt to, I am also the Community Outreach Program Coordinator, COP, it's called COP, to implement an after-school program and a summer program that we similarly have at the Booker T. Washington Center, which is a great success that keeps the kids busy. Also providing mental health services. Speaking of the ARP money Anna was mentioning, the mayor and the chief did a real good job for us presenting a plan to add more officers. And we're hoping to add 21 new officers coming up within the next year. But part of that plan was a full-time crisis service car. I don't know if those who can remember back in the day, when I started, we did have that. It was called the Golf Unit. So there'd be a two-man car out on the street who specialized in providing crisis service expertise in those type of calls that we receive throughout the evening. So that'll be a more specific policing that we think we need. And so that may help with some of the services that they'll be more experienced in providing and also referring to. As far as the crime watch stuff, I just want to let you all know that we're out there. We've done a lot of special patrols out there. We've done a lot of special attention, especially in your area in the last maybe 2 months. We have made a recent arrest in the shooting over by the Bayview. So we're out there. You may not see us, but we're out there. But please always call us. You know, the non-emergency line is 870-1125. Obviously, if it's a 911 emergency, please call 911. Summer's coming up. Please be vigilant for all the neighbors. Keep your car doors locked. We get a big increase in theft from autos at this time of year when the weather breaks. If you ever need us or if you ever need anything, Anna knows how to get a hold of me, but we're happy to be participating within this crime watch group. And so if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to ask, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. If I don't, I'll get the answer and get it to you as best as I can.
Thank you. Anyone have questions for Jamie? Okay, thank you, Jamie.
Wow, you guys are great. All right, thank you.
Okay, Anna.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jamie, for being on the call and for all your work with the neighborhood associations and organizations. And there's some good questions coming in the chat, so thank you. We're going to try to respond to those. Any other thoughts or questions or reactions to the topics covered tonight? Well, hearing none, since it is 7:30, and I think that's the time that we promised that we'd wrap things up, we can close it out. I do want to keep that invitation open. If folks want to follow up after the meeting, please be in touch with Marissa or me. Thank you all for joining the conversation this evening. To the Erie Insurance folks, thanks so much for your hard work and for your presentation. We really look forward to the outcome of that project. And to all of our residents, thank you for your input and your questions and for being connected and involved. Look forward to seeing you all at a number of spring events coming up soon. Be well and see you around the neighborhood.
Thanks, Anna.
See you
Have a
at
good
your
night,
neighborhood
everyone.
watch meeting.
Thanks. One.
Bye.
Great meeting, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, Curtis. Good to see you. Thank you.
Oh, yes.